We want to welcome you guys to L3 Perspective. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Glenn Davis. I'm sitting here with my guy, Cameron Macias.
It's your boy, Killer Cam.
Hey, what's going on, guys? I want to welcome you back to the L3 Perspective. My name is Glenn. As you guys know, I'm sitting here with my guy, Cameron Macias.
Killer Cam, what's up?
And we want to welcome you guys to the L3 Perspective. This is obviously a platform where we are here to provide value, where we talk about life, we talk about love, we talk about leadership. Cam, I want you to share your thing, and then I'm going to go ahead and introduce our guest, man. I'm excited about this one today.
I'm going to do my thing. All right, so as we always say, guys, like, subscribe, share, love, message. This podcast is for all of you. It is for value that we can bring to you as much as possible. That's how we choose our guests. That's how we do all of it. So, let us know what is most valuable to you, and realistically, what isn't. Share it with your people if you think that it brings good information to the table. And at the end of the day, it's all love.
Cam, you speak about value, man. As I introduce these two, all right, Brandon and Sharen, this is bro and sis. I met her through my wife, Tegan. Yep. They're her good friends, but we're like lifelong friends. But when you talk about family values, when you talk about love, when you talk about people who really just bring value to other people, you talk about leadership, marriage, all that. These two, man, I really respect. But Brandon and Sharen, I want to welcome you guys to the L3 Perspective. How y'all doing tonight?
Thank you so much for the invite. Thank you for all the awesome things you said about us. And we're trying to uphold it as much as possible.
Yes, with the accolades. Appreciate it.
Always been.
Glenn also said you guys were the first ones to interrogate him when him and T.
We did. We absolutely did.
He's my girl, and anybody she gonna be with, he got to come right, and he did.
Yeah.
So me and Tegan went to school back in the 7th grade, and we went to church. We grew up with her and her family, and her dad and mom and sisters, and so. She definitely was like, I want you guys to meet him. Tell us about him. And was that PF Chang's? Is that where we went?
I was about to say. I was waiting for that's my spot.
Yeah, that's your spot?
Yeah.
But so I know if I did something wrong.
He hit it out the park. He got the sign sealed from day one. So
I appreciate it. Hey, let me know what y'all Cash App is, man.
Getting the stamp since the gate.
Yeah. But Brandon and Sharen, tell us a little bit about you guys, about yourselves.
Want to talk about how long we've been married and all that good stuff?
Yeah, say all the good stuff.
All those grand things.
Let's see. We are Brandon and Sharen. We've been married for 15 years.
Congrats.
How far back y'all want to go?
Shout out to the double digits.
Shout out to the dubs.
So we go way back. We were friends. We're church kids, so we were friends in high school because you're not allowed to date when you're in church.
That's right.
We didn't date. We were friends with each other, and I think that worked out in our favor because we got to know each other even though we were dating other people.
Yeah.
And then eventually we got older and we decided we didn't want to be just friends anymore. And so we got together. And then
I feel like I could give this to like a 6-year-old. This would be like, oh, this is how it works.
Yeah. Yes. We got together and then we made a baby.
And then we got married, and then college, and then another baby, and more college, and then jobs, and then another baby. She's right next to us, so if you hear her or see me reaching for her, it's because
we didn't give you this disclaimer.
15-month-old is right next to us. Very quiet, watching Sesame Street. But it's going to be the grace of God if she stays that way.
The grace of God.
Hey, well, good thing this is a family edition.
Yeah. We're going to send with the good vibe. It's all good.
Yeah.
It's all good.
Awesome. So there was a lot of holes in that. So we're going to try to plug in those holes here in a little bit. But Brandon, how about you?
Let's see. What else what were some of the biggest things? So one of the biggest things that I think we connect with Glenn and Tegan on is, again, just kind of doing family together. So raising our kids together, kind of in a godly household. Like, what do we want our lives to look like? I remember when I met Glenn and I met Amari, and I had my first conversation with Amari, and I was like, wow, you can tell so much about a parent by having a conversation with their kid. And I was like, no, that's the type of person, like, we rock with them. We do. Just like you said, when you're like, oh, they parent like me. And that's kind of how parents, kind of see who they want to get closer with.
Yeah.
But raising our kids in a household that we would like to be raised in, there's always things you want to do different from your parents or whatnot. But no, me and Sharen have, like I said, it'll be 16 years in the summer. Obviously, there's been plenty of ups and downs or whatnot, but I think the commitment towards each other and legacy, I think overrode static and hiccups and this and that, and getting through the weeds of life. Because, like I said, even today, just making this date possible. It was drop offs, practice, and daycare, and this, but working together as a team. I think we kind of took that next step. Probably I would say the first 8 years of our marriage was really, really rocky. But year 8 and year 9, I feel like a lot of marriages probably don't even get to that point. Yeah. They might throw in actually, Michelle Obama just talked about that on one of her, she was on a talk show or something, and she said that, and she was like, if they can make it to past 7 and 8, that's a big hump.
It is, yeah.
And
it's 7, 11, and 15.
Yeah.
It was a big hump. We actually bought our first house around that time, and it was a fixer, needless to say. And we did that together, hands-on, with family and friends, and that actually showed us a lot about each other, what our person is capable of doing, and just saw new sides of each other that we didn't know were there. So, but no, it's been good. Like I said, we can get into more detail than anything, but I know that was a big turning point, just kind of for us and our household, and then from there, kind of just propelled us to kind of where we are now.
Mm-hmm. Got you. So, work background, real quick. Before we dive into the family values, your work background. What are you guys' career experience?
So I'll go first because wifey's on baby duty. So I am a public relations consultant for a couple of state unions. So I actually work for a consulting firm. I'm the outreach director. My degree is in public relations. And I've been working for this company for about 6 years since I graduated. I graduated in 2016. Yeah, December 2016, and I've been working there ever since. And we act as the union for state engineers, state scientists, and state attorneys. So their representation, bargaining for their working conditions, pay increases, and all that fun stuff. Providing membership representation. It's all kind of the scope of what we do. Again, I'm the outreach director there, so I do a lot of new employee orientations when people get hired with the state. It's kind of my job to kind of tell them about their. Sorry, I had to save that bowl. Gotcha. Yeah, she was just about to grab
this
something.
This is an extreme family edition.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, and this is always the challenge, right? Like I said, everybody on the podcast, everybody got plenty of kids. But it's one thing. So yeah, new employee orientations, a lot of union stuff, but that's what I do. My wife, she is a physical therapist. We both graduated from Sac State. She got her master's from Sac State as well. And she's been a physical therapist. She's this is her third company. She works for Sutter, Sutter Care at Home. So she's in-home therapist. So she goes patient to patient.
Oh, cool.
It has been it's a very challenging career, but a very rewarding career. Like I said, she did a lot of time. I think she was pregnant with Taylor when she got her master's, and so she's always been doing that juggle of motherhood and school and studying and this, But it has provided big dividends. And she's been with Sutter for I think 5 years now. Is that right, babe? Yeah, 5 years with Sutter. She did a clinic in Lodi, advanced physical therapy before that. So yeah, and I think she wants to be here for a while. It was because she had a really good job where she was at, but she wanted to be with Sutter Kaiser, one of those kind of bigger, units. Hi, baby.
Oh, there she is.
This is Nova. This is number
Nova.
3. This is the pandemic.
Really,
baby.
Nova.
Yeah.
Another Nova.
We got another friend with a baby named Nova.
Yes.
So I have a question before we dive deeper into it. So,
yes,
as a family, right? Sometimes you guys have scheduled things, and then it gets interrupted, right? You have to shift. what do you guys do to kind of counterbalance that for each other within your family unit, right? And so I say that because, brief example, Nova, hey, like, listen, look at me, right? But just in life in general, like that happens to people a lot. Like, how do you guys go through that, navigate through that to make it work?
What do you think, babe?
You gotta be flexible. I guess you gotta keep the main thing the main thing.
Keep the main thing the main thing.
You know what I mean? The main thing is just to get through the day with positivity without any inflicting any trauma on our children or each other. My goal is that my children's therapy bill won't be too high when they're older. So, the goal is not necessarily to get to the podcast or get to practice on time, although that's like the sub goal. The real goal is to maintain managing our home and our family and our relationship and our lives well in the way that we want it to be. And we want things to be done, with patience. We want things to be done in love. We want things to be done in excellence as much as possible. And if something happens and we're late, well, hopefully we're on time enough that it doesn't ruin our reputation. Or if something happens and the baby's in the screen, well, hopefully we're articulate enough to where the baby in the screen doesn't ruin the whole podcast. So
it's okay. I did 50 episodes before this on a different podcast, and trust me, kids interruptions, and I'm just like, yeah, y'all gonna deal with it or don't watch.
Yeah, especially during the pandemic, again, since she's an essential worker, she didn't stop. She was still seeing patients and just going in complete spacesuits. And so I was working from home while we just had 2 kids at the time. They were homeschooling basically during that time. Yep. Everybody remembers that time of COVID. And then when she got here, the other 2 were back in school, but now it's me and baby during that time again. So she's been a part of many work Zooms with me. And it's just a part of that new normal. It became acceptable during that time to rock a baby and be on a work meeting when all of us were still working from home. That was very taboo before the pandemic. Really was, and so I think the silver lining of the pandemic was the restoration of the work-life balance and family. I think it made a lot of people stop and look at your kids and look at your parents or whatever the case was, and kind of figure out, this is what it's like being with you guys and with no outside interruptions. But as things are kind of opening up again, she just started daycare. This is her 2nd week in daycare. So that's been a huge new transition. So again, we have 3 girls. Our oldest is 15, Jada. So she's in the IB program at school, and she's doing extracurriculars at the church. Our middle daughter Taylor is 9. She's playing basketball now, and so it's a lot to manage. And so I would say communication, and we have a shared calendar. I was talking to a married friend, and he saw that we had a shared calendar. He was like, man, me and my wife don't have that. I was like, how? How do you not have a shared calendar? It's just too much. I can't keep it in here, so, and we still miss stuff. Like, I didn't know Jada had practice today, but communication and clarity and trying to be as upfront with events and things like that so we can know what's coming down the pipeline instead of being surprised. So that's what I would say.
Yeah, we don't have a shared calendar, but like I add like my fiance on everything. But then same thing, like sometimes I'll miss something, and she's like, "This is the one thing you missed to add me on," and I'm like, "It happens, bro." Right? They like it is. The world didn't burn down. It's all good. Yeah. So Glenn told me that an interesting fact about you guys was that you were able to kind of follow like the Dave Ramsey thing. The Dave Ramsey system to get out of debt and stuff like that. Can you talk about like the dedication to each other that took? Because it's hard enough when it's one person, 2 people working together to do that. Holding each other accountable. Like, what was that like during that process?
You start.
Yeah, he's like, what you that seems to be a constant with the couples that we have on. They're like, hey, so like you start, right?
I think something that made the difference for us is it really was a light, a light shone on a path that we didn't know existed. Because this path to financial freedom is such a
ambiguous.
Oh yeah. Thing. Everyone knows it, but nobody knows it.
Everybody knows it, but nobody's doing it. All you got to do is, it's like weight loss. Well, all you got to do is do this. Well, why are you heavy?
Yeah.
Why are you broke? And so, I listened to what he was saying for a long, long time. I listened for the gimmicks. I listened for the get rich quick. I listened for the part of this that wasn't realistic, and it didn't happen.
Yeah.
It was hard.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. Maybe even as a therapist, that maybe even led me to know that, like, getting better at anything is hard.
It is, yeah.
Period. Rehab is hard. If you want to get fit, it's hard. If you want to get not injured anymore, it's hard. Things are hard. And he wasn't shying away from saying that it was hard. So we knew going in that it was going to be hard. The idea that it was possible for both of us was like, okay, it's possible. And I think even us being married, like we got married. It's like pseudo fairy tale situation. Yes, we were kind of high school sweethearts, but then we got together and it was rocky, and then it was like almost like rocky circumstances or whatever. But we stayed together because we were stubborn, and so we were willing. We came in this willing to do the hard thing. And both of our parents got divorced, and I think we both think we could do better than that. We can do better. If anything, I can do my half better than that, and if anything, he could do his half better. I think we both thought that. So I think we both think we can do hard things. They couldn't do hard things. I could do a hard thing. So going in, we had that in mind. And we also had the advantage of, we started off real broke.
So there was no alternative.
We started off real broke, but we never had no money. And we ain't never pretended like we had no money either. We never like...
no fake it till you make
it. We didn't have nothing to fake it with.
Everybody knew we was broke, and we was broke. So then, when we got a little bit of money, right at the same time we got a little bit of money, was when we were learning what to do with our money to not be broke. So instead of growing our lives, we just put all that money towards getting out of being broke. And basically, as soon as he got a job, because he went back to college a little bit later, as soon as he got a job, his whole entire paycheck went towards debt.
Yeah.
And,
can I chime in real quick?
Yeah.
I remember there was a couple crucial points in our financial journey. The first one was once she got her first job after she graduated, got her master's, because we were on government assistance for the first 8 years of marriage? 5-6 years.
Yeah.
So, food stamps, cash aid, subsidize anything we could get. And we were well below the threshold of, what that was. And so, and when she got that first job, and she got that first letter from her student loan payments, and they say, congratulations, your first student loan payment is, when it was more than our rent,
$913 a month.
Yeah, which was our rent was $875. Our rent was $875 at the time. This was 2013. Yeah, 2013. And so we were sitting at the kitchen table like we just got gut punched, and we're like, what? Well, we followed the thing. You went to school. You did we're trying to do the thing.
Follow the plan.
And we followed the plan.
Backfired.
And so that was the first awakening we had. And that's when we were like, okay, well, what are we going to do here? And then fast forward a little bit. We tried to buy a home. We were, let's try to do that. And I was working on-in jobs at the time. So I was like, okay, I need to go back to school because I saw her progression in her career. And I remember when her first job, I think she was making like $66,000 a year. That was the most money we've ever seen. And we were like, we can actually, that was the most money. We've never made that much together collectively. And so I said, okay. And eventually we said, let me try to get back in school and let me try to do something like that so we can take our family basically out of poverty. And on that track, we just had to gut it out. We got to start paying this stuff back. I think we just got like some more little subsidies at the time. It was not even covering the interest. But again, we felt like we were on the defense and life was continuing to attack us. And so then we realized without that plan of action, you're just going to be on the receiving end of all of these circumstances and Murphy's Law and all these other things. And I think her brother, Sissy, you okay? Okay. I think her brother told us about the podcast. Her brother told us about the Dave Ramsey podcast. And during that same time, we were in the process of trying to qualify for our first home. And we got pre-approved for, drum roll please, $185,000.
100.
That was, we mustered together. And again, this was pre-pandemic. This was 2015 time. So houses, there were some still in the hundreds, believe it or not. Yeah. And so if you're familiar with Sacramento, it was in the hood in South Sac. That was our price range. And so we eventually got one, and it wasn't going to ever be in any good condition. And we knew, like, okay, we want to buy a house. This is the only thing we can get. So we're going to have to, again, kind of climb uphill with that as well. But that was one of the biggest blessings is when we did get that house. We celebrated like it was a mansion. And, again, fixed it up, did that whole thing. We lived there for just about 4 years. And all that time, we were taking in Dave Ramsey. Every day I was at Sac State, I was listening to podcasts. We were talking about it during the time. And I told you we were fixing up that house together. And that, like, was almost like boot camp for our marriage all over. We were probably about year 8. And during this process, we got this house feeling nicer, and our marriage was kind of going the right way. We're on the same track with money. We got the joint bank accounts. We're on the same page about, okay, debt snowball, and okay, let's get on a budget. Everything just kind of happened in that time. And the seeds and everything that we planted during that time is the fruit that everybody gets to kind of see today. But it was ugly, and we were looked at kind of sideways because we went extreme. We got rid of everything that we could, sold stuff, got rid of the iPhones, sold cars, and just did what we could because, again, we didn't have anything, and we still have student loans to repay. We got kids, we got daycare, so we didn't have anything. It's like, well, we can't really celebrate yet, and at least, and like Sharen said about that light, at least if we do this, my calculation was 2 years we can be out of debt. That was the goal. That was what the math was telling me. I said, okay, let's just rough it for 2 years. And I remember when we did. We got out of debt November of 2016. I think it was. So we started about 2015 actually, and it actually took us just under about 17 months total. So it was just under 2 years to pay off about $180,000 worth of debt. And it was student loans included, which was crazy. And that was only because of buying in on the vision, agreeing and just saying, okay, we're in this together. We had 2 kids at the time, and we got them on board by doing a visual representation of what mommy and daddy are doing and why we're not going to restaurants anymore. So we put 180 beads in a jar called Debtland, and then we had another empty jar next to it called Disneyland. And we said every $1,000 that we pay off of debt, we will move one pebble or one bead from the Debtland into Disneyland. And when we get all the beads over here, we'll take you guys to Disneyland. And so we built in accountability partners. So every time we came home,
can we move no marbles? Y'all ain't paying up nothing.
Right.
Y'all ain't moving no marbles.
They was coming for us.
That's
every
perfect. Why do we have this milk?
We only
Disneyland
need
jar.
one marble. I was like, you know how hard it is to pay off $1,000 of debt? What? So they were like, well, what else we got to sell? We need to do a garage sale or something,
Take my squeaky toy. That gets you 200.
Right.
During that process, and even before this process, Brandon and I have learned to trust the process. That sounds really cliche. But
It's not.
No, it's
we
true.
were just saying that today.
We'd say that every day.
And it's the process, not getting caught up in how it feels or the discomfort or how it looks or whatever the things are. But if somebody smarter than you that you trust is saying this is the direction, yes, it's uncomfortable, and you've decided, and we were uncomfortable enough. I think a lot of people that we've suggested to do it, they're not uncomfortable enough. They don't believe their house is on fire, and maybe their house is not on fire. Our house was on fire.
Absolutely.
We did not have $913 a month to pay back to them. I had just gotten a job. So to me, my house was on fire, and I did all the things, went to college, and now my house is on fire. So I really, really needed a way. I needed a path. I think he was the same way. We really needed a path. And so we had this path. It's ugly. It's full of thorns. thorns. It's full of thistles and bears and all kinds of stuff. But it's the only path we got. So we're going to check on this path. And built into the Dave Ramsey plan is like little small milestones, the little snowball method. So you get your small victories. And I think those small victories like kept us going because although it was ugly and it was rough and we was fighting and whatever, we looked stupid or poor or whatever, we lived in the hood. We had these small little victories. And I think it's just taught us like, you know, don't matter what it looked like, stay on the plan and you'll get there. And we did.
Love it.
And that year that we got out of debt, we went to Disneyland twice that year instead of just once with the girls.
Twice.
We went twice. And then we applied to actually go do our debt-free scream on the Dave Ramsey show, and they accepted ours. So, was that the same year or was that the following year? I think it was the following year. But we flew over to Nashville to his headquarters, and we went in the studio and did our debt-free scream and kind of did our story or whatnot. Yeah. And that was kind of the stamp of validation. Like, not that we just made it, but because we've never been, I would say, I don't even know if we understood the gravity of being under tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt. And so once you get the gravity of that and then climbing to freedom, getting to zero, we were like, whew, now we're just at zero. So now, because we were debt free except our mortgage, but now we can start that legacy planning that we're talking about. We can start looking ahead. Now we can start building, what do you want your life to look like instead of wondering why it is the way it is, you know?
Almost like a blank canvas. Now you can start painting.
Agreed. That's how it felt when I sold my house in Sacramento during the pandemic, and I was same thing. I was like paid off my cars, everything got paid off, money, you know, and you know, and I do say like I'm blessed because I don't know how long it would have taken me had that one thing not happen, but when it did happen, like I understood how valuable that was in my life because I was just like I need, you know, the universe answered me and it happened, and you know, and I made a vow like I will never be in that situation again since, and it's been 2 years since that happened, and I am still debt free to this day, and like and that, and you know, 30 it's a lot of learning lessons for that. And like you said, you almost say it's like it's almost like drugs. They say you have to hit rock bottom before you truly become sober. Finances are no different. I feel like you said, your house has to be on fire before you're like, I have nowhere to go but to fix this situation.
Yeah, I know. And so in life, you know, you have your highs, you have your lows, right? And same thing in marriage, right? Or in family, you have your high moments and your low moments. So you guys, I know that knowing you guys over the years, you and a lot of people's eyes are deemed as successful, right? And so based off of like your family values, based off of the things that have kept you to be determined, focused, to kind of go from not being in debt, or going from being in debt to like no longer being in, and now coming out of debt. When it comes to life, love, or leadership, and I would like to, as we kind of gear up to wrap up, would love to hear from both of you guys, maybe speak on one of those topics that speaks from your heart or speaks to your heart that you could share with our listeners. So yeah, life, love, leadership. Let's start with Sharen. Go ahead, Sharen. What you got?
And go. You have 3 minutes and 37 seconds.
Or love or leadership.
Yes, and while your wheels are turning, I will say this: I asked you guys that question specifically because of how much respect and value that I have for you, and knowing what you stand for. And I think that our listeners could really, really get something from your heart. So,
I think I'm gonna attempt to blend them all together.
I love it.
Do it with elbow in your hand.
Yeah.
Attempt to blend them all together, and I think if we're gonna talk about love, I'd like to clarify the definition of godly kind of love.
Okay.
The kind of love that doesn't require anything in return. Mm-hmm. I think Jesus teaches that that kind of love is really the best kind of love, and the love that's going to return the best type of life. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so, in learning to live a life of love, trying to model that in my relationships, trying to model that in my parenting, trying to model that with my friends and my family, trying to live my life out of love, meaning I do for those, whether they do for me or not, not always requiring reciprocation, not being silly. Obviously, we're Dave Ramsey followers, so we still have boundaries and we still have brains, but attempting to live my life in love. And if I were going to define, if I have any type of leadership, it would be to let people into my home or into my life to see me living life in love. And whether I ever tell you anything, which I talk a lot, so I probably will, but I'd rather you see it. I'd rather you see me raise my children in love than me say, hey, you should raise your children in love, and I go smack my kids. Yeah. So I would much rather actually practice trying to be a loving person, actually develop that into my life, and whoever's in my world, invite them into my world, and that would be my leadership. I lead by loving, and you can just see it. You can experience it.
By example.
That was good, babe.
Yeah.
He's like, dang it.
She just set the bar, man.
Make it happen, Papa Bear.
I was just gonna pick one. Now I'm not gonna feel threatened if I pick one. No, but I was gonna say leadership when Glenn was talking, because I was one of those kids that didn't need any help doing anything. You know, I was very independent. Once I got my bike, like I can go to school, I can go to a friend's house. You know, and my dad worked nights at the time. Yeah. So he left to work at 8 p.m. and got back at 8 a.m. So it was up to me to put myself to bed, and it was just me and him. After I'm fast forwarding to my high school years, I lived with my mom all before that, before they separated. But high school was with Dad, and that's when you kind of get to see what you're kind of made of. And so having to take myself to school and having to put myself down, like I learned after being late a couple of times, like I have to do this. You know what I'm saying? My dad was like, "Hey, I went to school. Like if you didn't and you don't get on time, like I graduated, so it's up to you to make sure you graduate." And I was like, "That's not what Mom would say." Like, she was, you know. I was like, "All right, okay," but during that time and him kind of having that, giving me freedom, it was almost too much freedom. And a kid will never say, "I want you to be more strict on me. I want you to be more this on me." But looking back, I wish that some leadership / mentorship from anything at that time during that, you know, teenage, early 20 years would have helped us avoid a lot of potholes, I believe. And so once we were kind of coming into our own as who we want to be as parents and spouses, that was why I think we tightened the screw so tight on that regard. And you might call us kind of helicopter parents right now. I'm like, you know, not too much, but it's one of those things that, and I'm very candid with Jada. I'm sure as Glenn, I know that you probably are with Amari, and like this is why, because I didn't ever fill out a college application. Nobody ever made me, and I was like, I'd rather just go to work. You know, like I had so much that I and you don't know at that time, you know.
Yeah. So
somebody saying, "Hey, I want to steer you this way," and kind of developing some, I want to say goals or just leadership. I had very active parents, but that guidance, that I would have really benefited from some mentor leadership at that time. And so now, that's one of the biggest things that I kind of harp on with my girls. And I'm not always going to be the best leader in this regard. So if we're going to, like Jay, both of our oldest two are musicians, and they both play the piano. And I was like, I can't teach you piano. I can't teach you Spanish. I can't teach you a lot of stuff. But I can get you with the person who can. And it's our job to facilitate their development in these areas, even when it's beyond our capacity. So you want to do this? I got you with this. I got you with that. But as you come in and you want to add these extra things, okay, I got to outsource this. Let's get you a good coach. And I can tell you if this coach is quality or if not, you know, like a good, you know, like, nah, that's not the one. We just left Taylor's basketball game. I'm trying not to take over this coaching team, but you know what I'm saying. But that's just where we're at right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, that leadership piece is so valuable because kids will just go through life and one day they'll awaken and say, "How come nobody ever told me? How come nobody ever made me?" And it's like, yeah, now you're 30 and now you got to hit the start button. It's like, so let's save you this time. So I do it obviously with love, not an irritant to my children, but we always preach that. Our daughter, our oldest, says, "You guys are progressive parents," and she doesn't mean it the good way. She means the insurance commercial with the guy who's teaching them not to be like their parents. She's like, "You guys are such progressive parents. Oh my gosh, finances, the economy." She always says something like that, and we joke about it so much. But the truth is,
you need to know.
You're gonna want to know that. You know, there's gonna come a time when that time is gonna switch, when she's gonna say, "Hey, what were you guys talking about? Like, I know I was joking, but now I'm out here in this real life. I graduated college, and I'm like, see, this is what we talking about," because it just comes at you so fast. We got married. I was 20, she was 21. I was 19 and she was 20 when we had Jada. So we started this adulting so soon, and we were just mature kids. I'll speak for myself. I was a mature kid,
Immature.
you know. Sorry. I'm speaking what I am now. I'm a mature kid now. But I was an immature kid back then. Right. So that leadership for me was very, very important.
Cool. Yeah, appreciate y'all sharing that. Cam, you want to wrap us up? Or you want me, what you want to do?
You wrap it up, dog.
All right, cool. Hey, Sharen, Brandon, very, very thankful for you guys blessing us on the podcast. Appreciate your time. It is an absolute blessing to be a part of your circle and your life. I'm a fan from standing behind and watching how you guys lead your family, how you guys are loving your family, and how you guys are doing life together with your family. With that being said, to everybody watching, appreciate you guys tuning in. L3 Perspective.